Welcome back to Hoosier Gameday, brought to you by the Hoosier Network, your weekly football show on all things Indiana Hoosiers. I'm your host, Clements, with Ryan Canfield. Ryan, IU is now 2-0, program record-breaking 77-3. What does it say about IU being a threat in the Big Ten?
I think this is just a really nice step in the right direction. We all knew that some kind of blowout was coming, but a program record, I can't sit here and say that we saw 77 points, 701 scrimmage yards was coming.
Right.
So this is just an optimistic time to be an IU football fan, and I think this week is monumental to the success of this season because I mean you're going on the road in a different time zone in the first conference game for UCLA. It's exciting. It is so exciting.
It was a perfect way to go into UCLA. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And I'll say a big thing is right now for IU is I will be lying if I said IU is not in the top of the Big Ten, and they are a threat. And if you're at home and don't believe me, let's get right into the highlights from this past weekend. Work started off hot with the play action, and the toss to Anderson Kobe was right there. He made the play for the Hoosiers to get him on the board. Work again, playing some Where's Waldo? Goes deep down the field and is caught by Elijah Surratt. JMU transfer gets himself an IUTD and is making coach proud in the red and white. IU keeping the ball on the ground, hands off to Green with a little struggle, but not stopping him in the end zone. Elijah Green is a force in the run game for the Hoosiers. In the third now, IU does not lay up. Justice Ellison breaks through and takes it all the way. Another one for Ellison. He's been a key reason IU is now third in the Big Ten. A trick play for the Hoosiers. Backup QB Taven Jackson takes it in himself on the left side, and celebrations all around. Finished 3 for 3 to finish the night and was looking for some more. Some good reps for Taven, looking for the pass, and he finds Omar Cooper Jr., and he takes it all the way to the red and beats everyone doing it. The redshirt sophomore showing off some speed early in the season. Go ahead and flex on him. On both sides of the field, IU was producing, and look at that pick. It doesn't get more beautiful than that for the Hoosiers. The defense is something IU has been priding itself on this season. It's something Coach has been looking forward to. And why not one more in the fourth, but make it a pick six. All around a great game for the Hoosiers. Heading into UCLA, the best way to possibly do it. Well, when we see plays like this with Rourke, right, and you see the offense working and producing sacks after sacks, it's like IU expecting to do their big thing in the Big Ten and go ahead and start to make a run.
Well, I think starting with Curtis Rourke, I mean, that's why you bring him here. I mean, I've said it a ton of times on the show. This is our third show. I said it a lot.
Right.
This is why you bring him here. He is an experienced guy. You know he can throw the ball. And you bring Miles Crossover, too. Right. We didn't see any of him in that package, but last week he had a great catch. So I just think that Curtis Rourke being here is just a phenomenal step in the right direction. A serious quarterback with some serious accolades. He is Big Ten ready, and we'll see it. We'll see it this week. And then on defense, I mean, the secondary was phenomenal a couple weeks ago. The defensive front this week was awesome. I mean, Mikhail Kamara, we didn't see any of him in there. But he was so good, and I'm just excited to see how this team will fare against a Big Ten opponent.
And I wanted to take some look into some numbers that stood out to me from this past weekend. 0 turnovers, 0 punts, 2 penalties, and 6 players across the board with touchdowns. Signetti is going to make a Hoosier fan stay in the stands. When you hear a game executed like that and you're going to your first conference game, what message does that send to UCLA?
Well, I think, they're ready to play. And yes. Coach Sig UCLA is in the bottom tier of the Big Ten. Right. And I think Coach Sig doesn't care about that. He just wants to go play. And you heard what he said about the Rose Bowl at Media Day. Our players are excited to play at this game for all the wrong reasons because of this dump stadium that's been up for 110 or so years. We're going to play this game and we're gonna beat their butt. It doesn't matter if it's on the field, if it's in the locker room, or if it's in the parking lot. They're going to give them their best.
Yes, and I want to get right into it. When you see Signetti, what needs to be his plan going into UCLA?
Well, you got to do what you have been doing, and whether it's running the ball a lot with Justice Ellison, Tyson Lawton, or Elijah Green, or getting receivers out in space, whether it's Elijah Surratt or Omar Cooper, who had a fantastic game this last weekend. But I just think you gotta establish something, whether that's the aerial attack or the ground game. You gotta establish something and stick with it until it doesn't work.
And so getting more into that wide receiver and running back group, it's going to be me and Will going deep into that locker room to see what that offense is talking about for IU. We are back with Will Stewart from the HN Football Beat and co-host of Pack the Rock podcast.
You already know.
I know. Me and Will, we talk a lot of football, guys, so this is nothing new. But, Will, I want to get into the receiver room. When Work is looking for this next touchdown against UCLA, who should he be looking for?
Well, after last game, it looks like he's looking for Elijah Surratt.
Okay.
But the Hoosier offense is designed a way that he just looks for his open man.
Yep.
Rourke knows how to read his field beautifully. He goes through his progressions. He goes from wide receiver 1 to 2. He looks backside, and he always hits his check down. If, 1, 2, and his backside aren't there, which is rare with the opponents they played so far. But UCLA, I feel like, could be a little different. They run a 3-3-5 defense. They're going to have nickel. They got 5 DBs in the field, which could throw a little bit of an issue with this IU passing game. But that 3-down lineman set, that could lead the way for running backs to just have a day, which they've had for Indiana for a while. But if anything, he's going to look for Elijah Surratt. I would assume on an RPO slant because they love that play. They showed that early on last game against Western Illinois. But he might look for Omar Cooper Jr. He might look for Miles Cross on some broken play like he did in Week 1 against FIU. So who knows really where he could go with that ball.
I mean, what you said was basically what we see as fans is there's just a rotation going, and there's multiple options for him to look for. And I think that's what makes the offense look so strong this season for IU is because it's not like Work is stuck. Also, that O-line is helping him insanely for him to be patient as well. And so that scheme that Cignetti has right now to have multiple people coming off the bench, a different rotation, is that something they should stick with going in the remainder of the season?
Well, so far they've shown that it works. I mean, they've got enough talent, and the wide receiver room is deep enough. That's something that every media outlet has talked about this offseason, is how deep Indiana's receiver room is. Even with losing Donovan McCulley for a few weeks, which we're still not sure what the injury is. It's just a head injury, and Cignetti won't speak on it, which kind of a class act from him, to be honest with you. I respect that. But them having such a deep rotation with the wide receiver room and the running back room, it works right now. And it helps that O-line is playing so well, like you said, and that Rourke can go through his progressions like he does and shares the ball anywhere. I mean, he hit 8 different guys last week against WIU. So I think that the depth and just getting guys in, getting guys reps, giving teams different looks, that means they have to watch more film. They can't really pick apart one guy. They have to know kind of the tendencies of all 8 receivers that are coming out there, all however many are going to go out there. So I think that that's kind of that scheme that he's got right now, just sending out 3-4 receivers and a tight end and a running back. It's working great right now.
But last season, you brought up Donovan McCulley was key to that offensive play. And now, like you said, Cignetti said day to day. We don't really know much. And he said it's next man up. Is that a fair stance to keep guys there? Or is IU looking for Donovan McCulley on that turf right now?
I don't think they're looking for him. Obviously, they're missing him. I mean, that's a 6'5" go up and get a receiver. Fair. The dude's talented, to say the bare minimum about him. I mean, he's talented, right? But they've brought in so much talent with the transfer portal. They brought in 30 guys, bring in Omar Cooper Jr., bring in Surratt, bring in Price, bring in guys up. And I don't think that they're really missing him, to be honest. And football is a sport like that where it's just next man up. I mean, you see it in the NFL all the time. I mean, you saw it last night against Miami and Buffalo. Tua went down. Skylar Thompson's the next man up. He's just got to figure it out. I mean, there's no room for stopping. Sure, you can miss him for a play. Be like, oh, can't throw to Donovan. But you got to look for somebody else. You got to adapt. You got to be able to change. And Cignetti has coached this team so well that they're able to do that and switch their game plan, or not even have to switch it, but they can look other places because their game plan is meant for plug and play because this is still college. This isn't the pros where all the guys are super knowledgeable about the game yet. They're all still learning. So making it easy enough where guys can step up and play different roles, it's great for that offense, and it's shown off so far.
I mean, like you said, Work has options all over the place. And the big thing they've been doing this season has been rushing the ball. More than I think a lot of people were expecting.
You can't not run the ball. And you don't have to wear out Rourke's shoulder in case you get into one of those shootouts and he has to throw the ball 30 times. He only threw it 20 last week. So his shoulder's not going to be hurting. There's no receivers that are going to be fatigued from last game because they're not running 100 routes a game.
So with that all being said, is there a weak point in that offense?
We haven't seen one yet. We
Okay.
haven't seen one yet. I'm sure playing higher caliber teams, something's going to get exposed.
Right.
You would think, right? Because this is still an Indiana football team. It's not, from what we
Early in the
know,
season.
it's not the most talented team in the world.
Right.
It might be. Who knows? I'd love to be proved wrong.
Right.
But I'm sure something's going to buckle sooner or later.
Yeah.
The only thing that's really buckled is just effort. I mean, that's the only problem they've had. And Cignetti's kind of harped on it after week one when the offense let up a little bit. You got to learn how to play with the lead.
Yep.
So they come out, be aggressive for 4 quarters, drop 77.
Yeah.
So they've kind of knocked away every wrinkle that they've had. They've ironed them all out. So there hasn't really been a glaring issue so far.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to pick the weakest point, might be the tackle play, but I don't even think Rourke's been sacked yet, if once or twice all season.
I don't think he has,
But his pocket presence is allowed for,
Yep.
Maybe a slip up here and there by the O-line. But right now, I haven't seen a weakness. Maybe we'll see one against UCLA. Maybe we have to wait for a Michigan or Ohio State or Nebraska game. Maybe even Rutgers or Maryland. Who knows?
Just to test them a little bit.
Yeah.
See where those
Right.
points are. Maybe a team will see before we see it. Yeah.
They might. They get paid to do that. So
Right. We don't watch film, right? Okay.
we're not in the film room for 3 hours a day, no.
We might need to be, though, because when you look at this UCLA game going to the Rose Bowl, where do you see that score being? Is it favoring IU? Is it favoring UCLA?
So if it hasn't been clear enough, I'm pretty high on IU right now, how they played.
Yes.
I think the scoreline favors IU. I've got them winning 31-17, 31-20, somewhere in that ballpark. UCLA didn't look great against Hawaii.
Right.
And Indiana's kind of hitting on all cylinders right now. So I don't think UCLA is going to be able to keep up with Indiana. If they prove me wrong and have a totally different game than week one, which they totally
Hats
could.
off to them then.
They've had 2 weeks to prepare. So I would expect definitely a better outing from UCLA.
So we will see how the UCLA-IU game goes. Will, thank you so much for joining us, giving insight on the receivers. I know we love talking football. I know you'll be back. We're going to head right over to Ryan and Dylan, where they're going to get straight into that UCLA game.
In the grand scheme of it all, this is nowhere near the biggest game of the season, but staying undefeated in September, in the early parts of October, you need this game. Yeah. You need this game to feel good about going up against a Nebraska team that honestly looks like world beaters right now with Dylan Raiola. I cannot wait to talk about him when we get to the week of October 19th, but we will save that for then. I think that this IU team needs a win to, just a good road win with the eyes of the Big Ten watching you. I think this is going to be, it's their time to shine. And I said this also on the podcast. When you look back at the Cignetti era, whether it's good or if it's horrible, he's out in 3 years. You're going to watch this. You're going to rewatch this game on YouTube. Like, that's the game where Curtis Rourke really told everybody, like, this IU team's winning 9 games. This IU team's going to go to a New Year's Bowl. This IU team will be, in the forefront of the Big Ten. Or, this is what really got this whole Cignetti thing started.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this is the coming out party for Indiana this week. I think they can go into Pasadena and take care of business. I also think they should be receiving votes potentially next week if they handle this game. Maybe even cracking that top 25 if some upsets get pulled off.
Absolutely. All right, my friend. I need a score prediction from you, and then we'll get out of here.
I got 38-24 Hoosiers. It's going to be a party in Pasadena. They're going to break all the rules. It's going to be a party like at Club Aqua. Hoosiers and a blowout.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. We'll see you later this season.
It's coming to a close being kickoff, and with all things being said, IU versus UCLA could be one of the top Big Ten games of the season. It's going to be a close game, which makes it fun. UCLA is going in 1-0, barely pulling off the win against Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, ending the game with only 1 touchdown and 3 turnovers. While coming off a bye week, they had some time to reset, make some corrections of their home opener. But Ryan, I'm excited for this answer. What do you say the score will be at the end of the 4th quarter?
So I think that the Bruins will have their share of big plays, whether it comes from TJ Harden, that's the name you're going to need to know, running back, and then J. Michael Sturdivant, and then Rico Flores, the Notre Dame transfer, both at wide receiver. I think that D'Angelo Pons and Sean Asbury are going to have their work cut out for them. I think they can do it. I think they will come up to the task, and I think that the defensive line, whether it's Aiden Fisher, Mikael Kamara, Linnell Carr, will get Ethan Garbers in trouble, and I think they'll have to make him, force some passes. IU could certainly benefit off of a lot of turnovers in this game. So I think IU's offense will be just fine in this game. I don't see any threats coming from UCLA, especially on defense, that is, especially after losing their defensive coordinator, DeAnton Lynn, over to crosstown, actually, to USC. But with that being said, I think IU wins the game.
Okay.
I'll come up with a score prediction on the fly. I'll say 34-20. IU takes it.
Okay. That's not bad. I mean, right now I have them 28-21, IU taking the win. I mean, IU going 3-0. I mean, who would have saw it coming last year?
Me.
Maybe Ryan. You're right. Maybe Ryan would have. But we are hoping that it is a good game. It's a close one, which always makes it fun. UCLA versus IU this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Liv Clements. Ryan Canfield. We'll see you next week.